Suggest that most game studios are infested with jealous.
Oh, so that's just his fucking his weaselly take then. If I was a cynical man, that's not the first time I've heard him say that. And then he says the thing that he wants to say. You know,
if
what I
was a cynical man, I would say the thing that I actually believe right now.
and pretend like I'm kind of layering it with a degree of reasonable doubt that I actually said it.
Like you can do that for anything. It's like, well, I said if I was, so that obviously means I didn't mean it. Fucking
physically repulsive land whales who can't stand to be reminded that they've broken more mirrors than Conan the Barbarian.
I'm willing to believe that he doesn't actually see women this way, honestly.
Oh yeah,
he probably doesn't.
No.
Not to this extreme, but like he's just being cartoonish with his language, and that's partly, I'm sure, to entertain, because that's what his audience expects. And is, you know, that's part of the problem with the critical drinker, right? Is like the character can be, you know, a little bit more egregious with his language, but the audience doesn't really distinguish that.
Oh shit. It's so fucking hail to rip a verse. It's pretty good, bro.
There's no it's just there.
Oh shit.
You have a kind of sick desperation in your laugh.
There's this idea that like the corporations don't care about the quality of the product. All they care about is you know appeasing the woke feminists. And it's like, okay, right, I don't know, they obviously haven't thought about it for more than 5 seconds, but like no writer gets a pitch from a studio. Hey, we want you to write our new movie. We don't care if it's fucking wank, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have a woman kiss another woman in the background, no writer's going to be like, yes, oh, I can't wait to devote months of my life to not putting any effort into my craft whatsoever and turning out a heaping pile of dog shit just because I'm going to get a pretty small paycheck. Like no one is a writer by trade except for, like, I don't know, nepo babies, right? No one is a writer by trade because they want an easy paycheck.
Star Wars is Dead for $50. MCU for $20. Star Wars is Dead for $20. I used to sell toxic poison to kids to feed my habit and make money, and I went to jail. Now I sell toxic poison to kids to feed my habit and make money on YouTube.
Mahler makes a point of like, and it's like, okay, fine, it's kind of true, I guess. Like he says,
it's a good pause though, because I was going to say, did anyone else get struck by it? The editing's a little choppy in this trailer. Like it feels like it's one draft away from complete.
Then Az's response to that is,
it feels like they're cutting lots of stuff out. Of what's actually happening. So yeah, we're getting kind of like a really condensed. This scene might go for 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. That was his fucking response to, like, God. I mean, you know, that's definitely just stating a fact about what editing does. You know, what trailers are. And then he thought he was saying something profound. Whoa. I guess.
You mean a trailer's a cut up version of the movie, just doing highlights? What?
The scenes are actually much longer in the movie.
You don't want to upset that fraction of the audience. I know, so you got to keep it loose enough.
You got to have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. The last thing you want is a YouTube thumbnail with "woke?" question mark. So just avoid it.
I'm sure it's already happening.
Friends. Should we just friends. Should we just do that for this video? Woke? People that don't click on the video are going to be very upset at us. Oh no, they become grifters.
It's a big red circle around her face. Whoa.
That's awesome, dude. Like, I mean, honestly, cool. I mean, sometimes I worry that I'm like a little bit too kind of fucking bro-y in my presentation. You know what I'm saying? Like the way I talk.
Only someone who hates women would consider that a bad thing. So,
yeah.
There's nothing bad about that.
Congratulations, you owned yourself.
Displaying feminine energy. It's like, is that a bad thing? Do you not like to be around people who display feminine energy? I mean, it's totally up to you, but
probably doesn't like women, you know, at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, loud as fuck. Women are cool, dude. Like, generally, you know, they're pretty cool.
Unless you're Melanie Mack or Chrissy Mayer. I mean, otherwise,
true.
With an emo Kirby avatar. Yeah, there's nothing
it's almost like I know I didn't want to say anything about that. I'm just like, okay, whatever. But like.
No complaints.
Subscribe to me. Oh, Dane, take my hand. I will lead you to salvation.
Wow. What a reaction.
It's a little overreaction, isn't it? A little bit.
I don't know. He's pretty off key there.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe they should just do that. Hit the camera, hit the mic stand, hit all of it.
Just fucking fuck it all up, you know? Hey guys.
What's going on this Wednesday, the
this
beginning of
not
June?
Chillcast.
Yeah,
This,
I know.
This half cast or something. I don't know what you want to call it.
Again,
but,
no shilling this week, so no.
shilling.
Well, I don't know. There might be a little bit of Star Wars
A
shilling.
little bit of shilling for Acolyte, maybe. A little bit of shilling for Red Letter Media, definitely. I think.
Yeah.
Gonna show for those hack frauds.
Been some interesting stuff going on this week. So we got a few fun things to talk about. We have a few. Who's in the chat? Morgan is here. What's up, Morgan?
Boom.
Working hard.
Damn,
Hey,
how'd
Byron,
you get your
Daniel.
thing to look like that? That's awesome.
the different design there.
Yeah. Is that in
Coolness.
StreamYard or?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just
Must
mess
be.
around a little bit more. Weenus says Eva Bell has arrived from the future to witness the trial of Beau DeMayo.
Yeah.
I don't get this, but sounds fun.
Yeah. Beau DeMayo. Little disappointed and all that, but we'll get to
We
that.
can look at it.
Yeah.
It's you know, and I don't, you know, I should ask you this beforehand, honestly, but like, did you see the specific thing that I'd seen rumor of and Bob had too, that was going around very, very quietly a while back? That
you know what, I probably forgot, but I mean, you can definitely, if you have something like to present or something.
All it is literally just kind of word of mouth stuff that was going around, but it's very specific. I'll put it in the private chat so you can decide, you know.
Yeah.
Because I definitely didn't want to talk about it unless we had something. But like, if it turns out that he's being kind of chuddy, then it kind of makes me think there's something more to it than, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, we'll drop it in the private chat. Well, I guess when we get to that, we'll
cool
figure all that out. So
what's first?
So first up, this was something I want to talk about. So a lot of you folks may or may not have seen this, but there's an hour-long stream from Red Letter Media, which I had open in a tab, and then I'm like, oh, it's an hour. I forgot, so we're not going to watch that. But it's a stream where they talk about the death of movies, and it really is sort of a comprehensive conversation about media. Like, it's not just movies. I mean, yes, that is the focal point, but they talk about just modern media in general and why we're sort of struggling with some of the antiquated ways that media is still attempted to be put out there for people to consume. And a lot of it has to do with not only culture, but with just the world we live in today in terms of, capitalism and stuff like that. So it's a really good video, and I would highly recommend it. If you are looking for something to listen to in the background while you're doing something else, this is an easy listen. It's a 1-hour video. And I think it's a really solid take on all of this. However, so look, Daniel, this is what we're going to be talking about here is Red Letter Media, a CHUD channel. Well, let me play this clip and then you can determine what you think about this, because I have a lot to say about it. Here we go. This is a 25-second clip from this 1-hour stream.
Speaking of misconceptions, that's one thing in relation to Furiosa. I saw a little bit of. You don't see this as much anymore. It's starting to die down. But that idea of like, oh, this movie flopped because they gender swapped Max. It's like, well, it's a different character. Movies with female leads always flop, which isn't true. It's just like one of those like talking points.
It's clickbait. I've
clickbait.
seen those cropping up now.
Yeah. Speaking of misconceptions,
so there we go. That's the clip, and it's 25 seconds of gold to me because I am so happy. We've been doing this you've been doing it a lot longer than me, but I've been doing it for probably coming up like this fall will be 2 years that I've been sort of navigating the space.
Especially the last year, you've had a really solid, just like action-packed year of this stuff, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love all the good energy that I'm getting from, and even some of the negative energy. I'll take it. But we've been saying this stuff for a while, and we're sort of, we're fighting back against this algorithm that crushes the kind of content that we make, crushes the kind of positive content about media. The algorithm has literally kind of destroyed YouTube's entertainment section. I mean, in a lot of ways. And Red Letter Media is here saying just flat out, it's clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a poignant way to like sum up what all of it is, because that's essentially, that's it, right? That's all of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nicholas, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but that's what I hear. I imagine I'll enjoy it. But the point is like, it doesn't even matter. The quality of a movie often doesn't matter, especially anymore. Maybe it did at one point to these guys. They would kind of lean more into quality here and there, but like now it's just literally whatever, the clickable shit is. And the clickable shit is going to be the most, misogynistic kind of sexist, whatever take. And to answer the question of like specifically about are these guys chuds? No. Red Letter Media are the originals. They are the guys who literally like they just were the big bang of fucking YouTube movie reviews. If anybody's ever seen, there was a series of like, each one, there was like 10 videos way back in the day, like 2009, 10, something like that. Where and it was all about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom Menace, and sorry, I don't know if I said fandom or Phantom.
You did.
And it was like Mike, the dark haired guy. He was him doing the voice of a character called Harry S. Plinkett, and he's like, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, it's the worst movie I've ever seen. That. So if you ever seen that, that was them, and that they kind of like kicked off this whole thing of like realizing, oh wait, talking about movies on YouTube is fun. People fucking love that shit. And you can have fun with it. You can do silly voices and characters and stuff. And that like from that you get, Channel Awesome basically came from all that. Not literally, but like you was inspired by that kind of era of like you get Guy with Glasses, Nostalgia Critic, and all the bullshit that came along with him. Yeah. And then from there, that's where you started having like the third generation almost of movie critics on YouTube. Were the like the Nerdrotics and the Geeks and Gamers and stuff like that. Around that time was about whenever or after a few years after that second generation, you get The Force Awakens. It really started with Ghostbusters, then The Force Awakens, then Last Jedi, and if you should know what was going on around those movies by now if you're watching these channels.
Yeah.
And that's what it evolved or devolved into. And now here you've got the originals again. They've been doing it this whole time. I don't think they've ever hit the numbers that they hit with that original, Mr. Plinkett review because it was just so novel at the time. That shit went viral as hell. But like, this whole time they've been doing Best of the Worst, which is one of my favorite shows on YouTube.
Right.
And then they do their half in the bag, just regular reviews of stuff. And sometimes I don't like how they talk about Star Trek. They're a little bit cynical about it.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, like they've done their share of racist media, and I mean,
have they?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know 100%. I can't speak to that. So this is not me advocating for Red Letter Media. I think that this particular video is a good listen.
Well, I mean, I would say that I've seen plenty of their content, and I don't think I've seen anything remotely like. Sure, you can definitely. I'm not going to argue that you can point out something that's a little bit problematic or something over the course of their career.
Yeah.
But
I would love to see what you consider to be outright racist media, because I would be very interested.
I don't think that's true. I just don't think that's accurate. Come the dawn. That's just the Phantom Menace was the most disappointing thing since my son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's accurate at all. And to say that, and also to say that because somebody has had problematic takes in the past, that they can't criticize people now is also pretty silly and arbitrary. I've had some really problematic views in the past. I just didn't say them on the internet.
I thought you were going to bring up something that you did on YouTube.
No, I'm not going to talk about.
By the way, I did this like 3 years ago or something like that. I thought they were going. What's up, Blackwing Gaming Maestro? How are you doing? I would definitely say check this out though, because even if you do not like Red Letter Media, and again, I'm not advocating to go subscribe to their channel, I think the video is a very good conversation about like modern cinema, criticism, because I was kind of scrolling through my list today of my subscriber list for the CHUD channels that I follow. I have one separate thing just for that, because I don't want to mess with my my regular algorithm. So
You have to have it. You have to.
yeah, it's like a curated CHUD list. But I went through there, and man, it's just getting boring for them. I feel like it really is becoming a weird space. The solidarity that they had isn't quite as synced up as it was before. Like a lot of times all of them would be talking about the same subject and the videos would all come out around the same time. But now I'm noticing a bit of fragmentation in what they cover. I mean, there's the larger things that all of them will cover usually, but then the secondary things or the spin-off things from those are not quite as planned as they used to be.
Yeah, they're not on message anymore, you know,
right?
Like, you know, like except for the core kind of few guys. Outside of that, like there used to be a much larger, you know, kind of radius of content creators around them that, and they would all be in lockstep more or less. You know, and now, yeah, like you're saying, I think the thing that really is killing it is, you know, the CHUD apocalypse, man. Like it's a real thing, and I think it's a confluence of factors that played into that or are playing into it. Particularly the strike last summer, but yeah, the lack of Marvel movies is also not so great.
Yeah, well, I think this year the lack of movies in general, because you know, we're dealing with this is the ramifications of the strike.
True.
And let's see here.
I mean, Shockingly Racist is a pretty, you know, I mean, okay, I'll check them out and I'll talk about it Friday after I've watched them. But Shockingly Racist, I don't know. I feel like I would have.
It might be because of the idea of their story being basically a palette swap of indigenous communities, quite possibly. Hey, thanks for signing up. Darth,
like saying that Avatar is basically the same movie as like Fern Gully. Is that somehow racist or?
I don't know. I do know that there was a lot of conversations about the idea of making up space Native Americans or space indigenous people, and how it was too similar to like a real communities or whatever. Which, to be honest, I don't really know how I would tackle that sort of conversation, because when I saw the movie, I thought the movie was a good movie. I preferred the first one. I thought the second one was fine, but I totally understand when people have criticisms about like exploitation of their culture, but I wouldn't be the person to ask that question to, because I can't give an answer on that. So I'll watch it. I'll give it a watch and see what I think of it. You know, maybe it is as bad as they say. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they were banking on the Marvels, and it didn't really do much for them. You know, when you have to compare their successes to their big successes, right? And that includes, you know, the kind of handful of ones where they fucking knocked it out of the park with the Grift, with the Last Jedi, friggin' Ghostbusters 2016. Although I don't think it was quite as intentional then yet. It wasn't as much of a grift as it was just reactionaries making content.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Last Jedi, and then you know, Captain Marvel, which is a bizarre one, because as much as they made a lot of headway on that one, they got a lot of subscribers. There was whole channels born in that period because of Captain Marvel that still went on to make over $1 billion.
So I want to talk a little bit about this Grum stuff. Are you familiar with everything that's going on with that at the moment?
Well, I mean, I was pretty sure that he was like this anti-censorship, you know, figure.
Right.
And now,
so I'm going to give a quick backstory for anybody that doesn't know. So Grums is I believe he's almost 60 years old. He's he used to work in actual media, like gaming media, and now I think he's been fired from everything. I don't think he does anything anymore. I don't know for sure. But I think just this internet stuff is all he does.
We actually have a video on my channel that's me and Turf and Bob going over kind of through his history, where he came from, how he kind of made a name for himself before quickly ruining it. And,
yeah. Okay, so this is the most recent thing I could find where he talks about censorship. And the Stellar Blade thing was, there was a early access version that came out that people were playing that was not the final game. It got called out for a few things. One of them was the hard R shop, which at the very least would have been kind of insensitive. I think if they would have left it in, it wouldn't have been like, oh, we're never going to play this game. It was clearly just an issue with textures and artwork and where they placed it in the game. But they changed it, which they had probably meant to change it the whole time, because the day one patch came out and that was when it was changed, which means that it was probably ready to be changed as soon as the game went public. As far as the costumes go, they changed some of the costumes, but then recently they added some of them back in, and the assumption is that they were going to put them in the cash shop. Surprise, surprise, that's what they had planned on doing, putting the sexiest outfits in their cash shop. I mean, makes sense to me. But Grum said here, Stellar Blade will be uncensored for all regions. He goes, well, that didn't last long. If Sony's going to censor this, what else will they make game companies remove? So you see a statement like that, and you would assume, based on this tweet and many, many other tweets where he's cried about censorship, that Grum's is anti-censorship. Because that is the stance you're taking.
Yeah.
That this is bad, and the statement is, what else will they make game companies remove? That seems like a blanket statement about overall censorship in gaming, unless there's some other context that I'm missing there. Am I missing something? Because that seems pretty straightforward, in my opinion. A failed game developer, failed bus guy. Is that accurate there?
I have the more recent take pulled up on to share, though, if you want me to.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, if you want to do that.
So this is about I guess a trans character in Mario or some shit is what it started off with, I think.
Yes, but this is actually about the Call of Duty Pride.
Oh, the trans bullets.
Yes. Yeah. So if you did not know, Call of Duty offered Pride skins that can be put on items in game. And yes, you can put that on your ammo in the game as well. From what I could tell, people were telling me that they've done all kinds of things where they give you skins for weapons and ammo and gear. So it's simply just something they're doing for Pride Month that has set everybody off. And they're equating this to inciting some sort of radicalization to gamers. Maybe trans gamers, maybe gamers in general.
To go on massacres, basically.
Mass pew-pews, yeah. So my thing is, when did they start siding with radicalization from video games? Because that's a very, very huge accusation that has been disproven time and time again.
Like that's the old guy, the old uncool guy take for as far as gamers are concerned, and I can't believe that there are now people that call themselves fucking gamers that are just like backing this. That just shows how fucking brain addled this anti-woke bullshit has made people, to where like they're now just they're willing to say this thing that their parents were saying about Mortal Kombat in the 90s and shit.
Right. And then he shared, first let's read this so you guys understand before I give this next thing. This first line is him saying something that was completely out of pocket. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second. I absolutely support censorship of the woke. So that is not only saying that he supports censorship now, but specifically for diversity. Specifically. And people are like, oh, the next line exonerates him from that. No, it doesn't, because he says, especially in games marketed to kids like Nintendo and cartoons. He says, especially. That doesn't mean exclusively. So he's not saying that he's only talking about Nintendo and cartoons. He's using that as a caveat in his argument. Like, this is his linchpin that I can hang it on this whole kids and Nintendo and cartoons. ESRB Fatcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Morgan, that maybe we need to do a follow-up. I don't know.
Yeah. So the issue with this line, and I said this in my video when I talked about this, is that this is sort of his I'm talking about children thing, because he added that in. Like, if you look at the way that is phrased, he added that in specifically to be like, well, I'm not racist. I've got a black friend. I'm not homophobic. I love gay people. You know what I mean? Like, it's like adding in something to the argument to make it sort of to not as a, I guess as a pun, to be bulletproof, because he can always like push it off onto that. But he says especially, right? And then without any citation, you've done it to us. Who is us? You've done it to us for over a decade, and now it's your turn. So it's about spite and punishment now. You don't get to indoctrinate our kids anymore. Okay, so what are you talking about? So if you're talking about Paper Mario, the game came out over 20 years ago, okay? And it was actually censored. And then when they released it recently, they decided we're going to uncensor and expand on the story that was in the original game that was censored in most English-speaking territories. That was over 20 years ago when that game was in development. So he says, you've done it to us for over a decade. So he can't count, apparently, because that would have been 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's still no, like, what is indoctrination? Is indoctrination kids playing violent video games and just becoming violent? Because that would be the argument you should be making. You can't be like, oh, Call of Duty doesn't radicalize people to violence, but you put pride bullets in the game. Now all of a sudden it's going to radicalize people.
To be trans.
Yes.
And then also to do mass shootings.
Right.
Sorry, mass pew-pews.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying here.
It's fucking nonsense, dude. It is
just the argument about like being able to or for video games to do things to kids and stuff like that is so ridiculous, because it goes down a path that he doesn't want to go. And I think that is why this tweet no longer exists. But anyway, it goes, because we won't win the battle by playing fair, in quotes, meaning that I guess they were being fair before. So now they're not being fair moving forward. You just turned that against us. What are we turning against you? What are you talking about? You're the one who said you're anti-censorship. Now you're arguing for censorship. So what's like side of that are you on? Once you've decided that your position is a position of bias when it comes to something like censorship, there is no fair argument.
Yep.
Which means he was never playing fair in the first place. So I want to share this here. Because he also did this. And I thought this was rather egregious as well. And this is why I deleted it, because I think he was getting destroyed in the quote tweets and stuff. But here he goes here. He posted this. Imagine defending trans bullets for Activision and Call of Duty at all costs when this is the recent history of mass pew-pews. And so he shares this here and somehow equates that to this without any correlation. Is there any proof that any of the people in this picture, any of these pictures, were playing video games with trans bullets in it? Because that's the argument you're making. That's the argument that you're making. So explain to me how one thing connects to the other. It's more than likely if somebody was radicalized into doing something like that, they were simply playing Call of Duty. If you're going to be making that argument.
I mean, it misunderstands like 7 different topics at once to push that claim. It's just insane how stupid, mind-bogglingly stupid it is. It's like this guy has seemed so desperate to get a grift going, you know, since I became aware of him, that like he's just trying whatever, and he's trying it extra hard each time, but like a little too hard.
Yeah, there's another. Let me pull it up here on screen now, because I think he deleted it. But this is from my actual video. By the way, go watch my video, everybody. Watch it, like it, do all the stuff. Here we go. This is the tweet that was deleted, I think, and it's a little hard to see. Let me pull this out and see if I can get a better shot of this. I think that's a little bit better. I spoke in frustration today. This was his follow-up to the tweet that, you know, we just looked at. I spoke in frustration today about censorship. Some people took it the wrong way. So he's going to clarify what he meant in that tweet about censorship.
Oh,
I'm talking about games marketed to kids. No, you're not. But I was
Call of
also
Duty?
tired. Right. But then he goes, but I was also tired of the propaganda asserted into everything. So we didn't take it the wrong way. We took it exactly the way you meant it.
Dude,
you want
mean
censorship of propaganda, diversity, and everything.
Guys,
Like-
don't be cowardly with your positions and your words like this. This is so fucking cowardly. It makes me fucking sick.
Yeah, and I deleted the comments. Better to focus on what's happening and what we can do about it. So, and now that one's deleted.
Oh,
He deleted that one too. And it's just really funny to me because this is literally, it's Pride Month, so they're looking for everything they can to come after queer people.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to reiterate that gay people, trans people, anyone under the umbrella, most people under the umbrella, realizes that during Pride Month, capitalism creeps in and companies are going to do anything they can to either provide people with merchandise or to get people to pay attention to their products using Pride. It's no different than Christmas when companies do things during Christmas time and everything's a Christmas special and they're playing Christmas music and there's Christmas trees in windows. Like, it's no different than that. This is the capitalism. It's the society we live in. And if you have an issue with the rainbow part of rainbow capitalism, you are focusing on the wrong problem. The overall problem is the capitalism situation we're in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Any group that gets a sort of bump in this in any way is being exploited the same way everyone's being exploited. And the whole pandering thing is also annoying to me because when people complain about X-Men 97 not having a juicy rogue ass in a thumbnail, they are complaining that cartoon is not pandering to them. That's what they're complaining about. Because if the cartoon was doing that specifically because you were forcing them into doing it or you were expecting them to do it, then they would be pandering to you. So people complain about not being pandered to when other people are being pandered to. Because we have been, and I've said this before, this was clipped. Somebody, I don't remember who clipped this, but they were like, oh, such an odd take. We have been conditioned by media in general to accept pandering. And the communities that have had it for so long, i.e. straight, cisgender, white communities, have had it for so long in the history of media that they don't even see it as pandering anymore. They have been conditioned to look at it as if this is normal and everything else is pandering.
Can I remind you of the thing you said to me once that you made an excellent comparison of the burger and pizza thing that like what was that guy that showed up to debate me at the end of a stream one time, and we were talking about the how I said I was like taken out of the Avengers Endgame in the moment when all the women are just suddenly right there, and it's like, well, it did feel a little pandery, right? And you're like, yeah, but that's because it's been pandering to you this whole time, and that's true. Like, and you said something about like it's like you have eaten nothing but hamburgers your whole life. And then I don't remember how you said it, man. I don't want to misquote you, but it was really, really good. And plus, it just it was about hamburgers.
It was something about like if they offer another menu on the item on the menu.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the analogy that I use a lot. Like if you go into Burger King and they sell burgers, and then one day they decide to offer a pizza, they're not taking anything away from you. You've been getting burgers there for so long that offering a pizza to someone else, it doesn't affect you, and it's not the type of pandering that hurts anybody. Because that one scene in that movie, if that ruined the whole movie for you,
no, absolutely not. No, I mean, it just all I ever said about that, by the way, and that's why that guy wanted to come on and talk to me, because he thought that he could like get me to admit that it was just objectively bad or some shit.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh no, wait, why are all these women suddenly in this one area of the battlefield?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, if you start applying that kind of logic to it,
why are all these men in one area on a battlefield? You know what I mean? Like,
why are there so many more men who are heroes than there are women? Whenever there are more women than there are men,
because we've already been conditioned to accept that. That's
because
the thing.
I've been pandered to my whole life about superheroes being men for the most part.
Why is it? Do you think that so many people like to see sexy women in movie posters? Because we have been conditioned to seeing sexy women in movie posters. That is why the beauty standards that we have today are different different from beauty standards we had 200 years ago. That's just the reality of it. And the reason why they exist, and there's been tons of studies on this, is because we have been conditioned to accept a conventional and traditional as the idea of what beauty is. And that is part of the issue with, like, the modeling industry has had to struggle with this for a very long time. Getting models in who represent different shapes and sizes was a struggle for a very long time because they wanted like size zeros. They wanted women to be shaped like a branch, like a tree branch. They just did not want anything else, no curves, no nothing. And they've spent the last decade really trying to dismantle that. And it's one of those things where in the modeling world, we've seen it. There's still a little bit of pushback on it, but they've made a lot of leaps and bounds in the right direction for that. But it's a home shopping network for chuds. Guess what? Friday Night Tights panders to people. In case you were wondering, that is what they do.
Well, but then that's one
pander.
part. The other part, the thing that they do is they pander to you, and then they say that this pandering is the only thing that's valid, and anything else is an abhorrent thing. Actually, I have the clip here of me winning that debate with that dude. Now that I think about it, if you want to check it out, because it made a pretty fucking salient argument, I think. I'm
really sad that I couldn't stay for that because that was at the end of a stream and I had to go, and I wanted to stay for that.
And I was tired, like I was so tired, but it was a really good stream, and I was just like feeling really good about it, you know. And then me and you talked for a good while after everybody else was up. So him showing up, and then of course I find out later that he was at one point a fairly well-known figure in Comicsgate. Mike S. Miller, he drew the Injustice comic book. You know, he was a professional at one point, but yeah.
Do you like it when something just completely takes you out of the story? When you're so engrossed in this tale?
I can give you an example of an instance that is basically this. Dune, recent Dune film.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Agreed.
There's one moment where I was completely taken out. And like I had to kind of pause and go, you know, kind of deal with my thoughts. And this is, you know, a good example, I think, because it doesn't have anything to do with the, you know, the social politics stuff that typically is being referenced here. But it still applies. So
not right now.
The scene with the Bene Gesserit old lady shows up with the box.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he puts his hand in there, and you know, he says,
"What's in the box?"
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
What's in the box?
Oh no!
I immediately was thinking I was immediately thinking about the movie Seven, and I started laughing, and I'm like, fuck. Because other than that movie, I was completely immersed in it, like completely. There's very few films that I've had such an immersive experience with Dune.
Yeah.
And then I was removed from it. The only time in the whole movie was that. But the reason is because my experience of having seen Seven a bunch of times, of me and my friends used to go, "What's in the box?" You know, like we had repeated that. And that was my experience, you know, subjectively. Now, if I'd never seen Seven, or if I saw it and didn't really remember that part or whatever, I would not have been taken out of the movie in that way. So my being, you know, taken out of the immersion was completely rooted in my very specific experience of not even just seeing the movie, but me and my friends making that, you know, quoting that line. Certain things stick out in different people's minds, and that's going to cause certain people to, you know, take notice of something more than others or less than others or whatever.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the whole point was him saying that, like, you know, he doesn't like being taken out of a movie because, you know, in reference to Endgame with, like, I was taken out of the moment with okay, but sure, but like, that's not the fault of the movie, and it's not the fault of like, you know, that's just my perspective being what it is. And if you can't blame everything outside of yourself for your perspective. That's fucking silly.
Right.
And you know,
well, I also would ask, and being that I've like floated in different spaces, I would ask, why does that bother you? Like, what is the reason why seeing a bunch of women together fighting and being badass, why does that bother you? What is your personal reason? Not you.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So it doesn't bother me.
No. If I were to be in that environment, that would be my question. Is I would want to know why, because the idea that it's cringe. Okay, cool. all right, so I'm not gonna say that you're wrong about that. That's how you feel, but why do you feel that way? Why is that cringe to you? What is the reason why in society now you see a bunch of women doing something together that men have been doing in movies for years? Why does it bother you? And then it takes it to a deeper response from
the
that.
only answer they can give, other than just like, well, because I don't like women, I think I'm like a misogynist, which is probably more closer to the truth. The only thing they could really say that would kind of have almost an argument, but I still think that not really, is to say that it just isn't logical. But because then if it's like, okay, well, we're talking about Avengers Endgame and Captain America's shield, for example, and how that fucking thing flies around is not logical. So if you're going to start saying that this isn't logical,
that would be my response to that. Is there's a lot of illogical stuff that happens in those movies that you like. I mean, going to space to make a hammer with Groot's arm. I mean, there's a lot of things that you just have to sort of accept because it is a comic book.
Somebody might respond to that by saying, "Well, that's fucking awesome, though." And it's like, well, okay. And
but why is one thing awesome and why is one thing
that was fucking awesome?
Right.
So
would be exactly. That's exactly how I would do it. Those are the questions I would ask. And if somebody can give me an answer that I think makes sense for me, then I would just say, okay, cool. And we move on. But the thing is, I've yet to have, when I ask these questions, I ask them because there's a deeper conditioning that's happened to us when we're consuming media now, where these old, I don't even know what it would be, like these tropes and these things, these storylines and these, because I think there's this, what is it called, Dane? You might know, where there's only like 30 some possible stories you can tell in movies. Like is it like, I can't remember the name of it. Somebody in the chat knows, I'd love to hear. But it's like there's only but so many different types of movies you can make, and you can change those stories around and make them unique, but they're always sort of the same thing. Like the hero's journey is an idea where you tell a story that way, or like a rom-com or things like that. I forget what it is, but I read that and then I was like, you know what? They're right. Like, even though we're getting newer movies, you can't change them but so much. And I think the issue with where we are now as culture might be less about the movie, like what the superficial elements of the movies are and what we are actually, which we've actually seen in cinema for the last 40 years. And we start trying to blame all these other things. And then you're like, well, why do we feel this way about these things? I've even had to ask myself that question. Why do I feel this way about this thing? Is it because I truly believe it? Or is it because I've been conditioned to believe it?
Yes. Guys, you have to examine your biases and like these preconceived things that, that why are your preferences the way they are. Sometimes it can be very valid, and sometimes it doesn't even matter. It's like harmless to have some, silly view on something. But when it comes to stuff like this, we're talking about biases that aren't just about movies. It's also about how you see women, for example, or whatever, and that can be really not good.
Yeah.
So,
like a good example is like the MCU thing that Nerdrotic says a lot, right? He has conditioned people into accepting that by repeating it over and over and over again. This is an actual thing. When you talk about public speaking, you talk about people who are leading movements, whatever, they repeat the same thing enough that eventually it just becomes reality. And if you look at Marvel and you look at the idea of the MCU, women are still a fraction of the lead characters in Marvel projects.
Yep.
A fraction of it, right?
You are seeing more. The first conversation you and I ever had. Where you broke down the percentage or whatever that, like, and it doesn't matter as far as representation, but sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you broke up there for a second for me. The women don't represent an overwhelming amount of space in the MCU. There are more now than there were before, but we're not talking about a 50-50 spread anymore. And if you're going to compare like apples to apples, if we're talking about lead roles, it's even a larger disparity between like women and men in Marvel film. And I don't think we need check boxes and go, oh, it needs to be an exactly like equal amount every single time. I don't think that's the case. But that's not the argument that a lot of these guys are making. The arguments they're making is that women are replacing men, and that's it. That's the argument. It's not about like how much it is, how many films there are. They'll never say that. They will never, ever go, well, there was 10 movies last year and 2 of them had women leads and therefore MCU. They'll never say that. They will never do it. Or they'll say something like with Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, a movie where you can look up the time that the characters were in the movie and see how much time they had. And they'll go, oh, well, Doctor Strange was a secondary character in his movie. No, he wasn't. He was not a secondary character in his movie.
It's just objectively untrue.
Yeah.
You know, there's I have a breakdown. I don't know if I've given those to you or I have posted them in the Discord, but like I've got a posts that break down the time that each character is in every MCU project. And there's just, other than, you know, once you get to WandaVision, Black Widow, you know, then you start to get movies that actually have more women, you know, on screen than men. But like, other than that, no.
Now, again, if you look at the scene from Endgame where all the women sort of convalesce together there on the battlefield, if you want to make the argument that you don't like the logistics of that and it doesn't make sense to you, then I would love to hear your take on all the other logical issues in that movie. This is true. Low watermark.
Do you think that's
Absolutely.
because they literally just can't, or they just or don't want to try? I'm curious about that. You know, it's obviously not an easy answer, but like,
yeah,
I feel like there was a point whenever I couldn't, and now I can, and I just, you know, there has to be some kind of a, I don't know, point that you can break through to get to where you can.
Yeah, I think, and I don't think that bias is inherently wrong, right? I think that there are some biases in your life that either or you do for protection. You know what I mean? Like you feel like I don't want to do this thing because I've had bad experiences and therefore there's a bias there. But then there's like I'm more speaking about unfair biases, things
irrational ones.
Yeah,
right.
The
like,
ones where there's no reason for you to have it other than you've been told to have it.
Or that they actually could be causing you, you know, damage in your life and like, you know, just being a healthier person. If you're talking about, you know, let's say somebody's, you know, might be a little touchy here or something, but I'm going to use give me a second to let this example play out.
Okay.
Someone has been robbed by a black person. Okay. And from there, they just don't trust any black people because every black person they see, they're just going to rob them, right? In their mind. Well, that's completely fucking irrational because the vast majority of black people don't fucking rob people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you had an unfortunate, you know, really unfortunate fucking encounter there and that person sucks, you know, but like that's it. That's all you can take from that. If you're going to be, you know, paranoid of being robbed from that situation, that's understandable, but to just base it on the skin color is fucking an irrational bias that it is a racist bias. But Liam needs an example. Yes.
I mean, we've talked about this before. I've mentioned that my my father's side of my family over the years have said and done a lot of extremely racist things since I was a kid. And I don't forgive them for doing that kind of stuff, but we coexist to some degree because we're family and I don't go out of my way to see them, but I am going to see them from time to time. It's just the reality of it. But I've never told you guys why they say some of the stuff they say. And there is a little bit of, there's foundations for why they feel the way they do, but I don't think it speaks to what you were just talking about. And I don't think I've ever talked about it on this, like with you guys before. I think I've talked about it on my own streams. It would have been years ago though. But the reason why they say and do, and it always goes back to this. It always comes back to this for them, is that on my dad's side, both his mother and father were unalived at the same time in 1978. And I was very young. I was a very small kid back then. I didn't really know them that well, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they were unalived in 1978. And the people that murdered them, because they lived, you know, like back then in my area, maybe you might know something about this. There's parts of like outside of town where people live, but their houses weren't near anything. They were kind of, there were these long roads and like farmlands and stuff. So they lived off the beaten path. But these guys must have seen them, you know, out and about and knew where they were because they didn't live in town.
Followed them home kind of thing.
Yeah. So these two guys followed them home and they unalived them point blank with shotguns in their house. And when my dad and his brothers and sisters. He had a large family, like 10 brothers and sisters. When they did come back to the house to find this situation had happened or whatever, they did actually catch the guys and they went to court. And they were black guys. And in court, when they were asked why they murdered or unalived, this is going to be bad. This stream is going to get difficult. But what they were asked why they unalived the parents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys' response was, and this has shaped their entire concept of black people, their entire lives. And it's so unfair. But the response to that was, I just wanted to see what it was like to kill a white person.
Oh man.
And he said that on the stand.
So this is where that comes into play. The thing that comes into play there is something I've talked about a lot on my channel, which is trauma. And that is very clearly a trauma associated bias those are incredibly fucking difficult to break free of.
Yeah. And we're talking about like losing them that way and then taking that into their lives and literally making that a stance that they had, that the entire family has.
Yeah.
On my dad's side. And they sort of bonded together over that moment. And it's hard, like I push back against them, but that always gets thrown in my face. Anytime I bring it up and I say, you probably shouldn't post this kind of stuff on Facebook. Well, you know what happened to my mom and dad and blah, blah, blah. And I like, how do I respond to that? You know what I mean? So
anecdotes aren't really evidence. And like,
not.
It's how do you tell people that like your pain is completely justified, but it is making you see this situation, and is it even anybody's place to tell them that? I don't know. It's really unfortunate.
Well, that's the thing is that I was such a young child when it happened. And out of all like my family and everything or whatever, I was the first child of that group. So no one else was even around when that happened. It was so long ago. So I always get told, oh, well, you went and saw them and you were with them. And so I don't remember it. I was very young, very, very young. I don't remember it at all. So they carry that bias into their lives. And I have just gotten to the point where I just have to sort of shrug it off and not associate with them because I have a completely different understanding of it than they do. And there's not a lot that I can do to change that.
Yeah.
Lucifer says, honestly, I'm not sure it's something you can wrestle over. I'm not sure if I heard someone talk about my parents like that and any amount of therapy would help. I mean, that's the issue. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, so I don't know if they were like that before. That's the thing is I don't know because it's been like that my entire life. So for me to try and remember a point when they weren't saying and doing racist stuff, I don't know it. I have no idea.
Well, and then there's also sorry, go ahead. I don't want to.
Yeah, no. It's just it's one of those things where I don't have the answers for that. And I mean, like each individual person may have a different story, but that's something that's just kind of stuck with that side of my family. So
it's almost as if obviously the unaliving is the truly fucking evil part of what happened there, but like saying that on the stand is also just like, dude, what the fuck? That's caused untold
and
pain.
those guys, both of the guys are out of jail now. That was the thing is just recently one of them was released, and that kind of set the family into a tailspin. So
and you're probably talking about what's really fucked up when you start thinking about it even further. Why would he say that, right? And it's probably because being a black guy, he has experienced some bigotry and racism from white people, and he developed and accumulated a fucking sense of just kind of hatred, I guess, in response to it, because it's and that's the fucking true evils of racism right there, man. Is it can have like all these generational kind of compounding fucking effects.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing about it is, like Bob here says, yeah, I think that therapy could help someone recognize their weaponized their own trauma in unfair way. To be fair, not every single member of that side of the family talks about it. You know what I mean? They don't bring it up. But the ones that were the older family members use it and talk about it almost every single day. I see it every single day, honestly. And then Low Watermark here says, when I think about racist stuff I've seen in my life, I remember old family friends who were actually racist. They even had the t-shirt. Wow. Holy cow.
I mean, I've talked about growing up in deep south, and it's like, go watch my Watchmen video. Talked about a pretty good bit there, and like the bias of just like growing up in an area that it's a natural bias to develop, honestly, because I grew up in the town that I lived in was like vast majority white, and it was pretty well off generally, middle class, upper middle class, but then you go over to the next city and it's by and large people of color. It's all dilapidated. There's lots of crime. White boys like myself were told not to drive around there, at night. Which made it extra exciting when I used to go buy some blunts in that town. Right.
Right.
But like, and it's like, oh, very clearly there is a big difference between these two places. And what's the only, everybody says it's because black people don't want to work or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, what else are you supposed to take from it? Except there must be some truth to that. But then, I get older and I move out of the area and I realize that, oh wait, that city is run by fucking old white people that put no effort into making it a city that was worth living in, and brought no jobs to it. It just all these conditions that were, it was just the conditions that weren't really in control. The people that live in the city, the citizens, didn't have any control over. They're just living there. And meanwhile, over in my area, I was fortunate to live in an area that they wanted it to be nice, and they voted for nice property, standards and shit, all that shit. So yeah, until you kind of get that context, it's easy to fall into those traps. But yeah,
I want to say here, this was kind of what I was getting at when I said I didn't know them before. With some of these folks, it's possible they were always racist. They're just using that as an excuse. That's the one thing that I don't have a reference for when it comes to this. Like, I don't know if the family had that stance prior to this, or if this was the thing that sort of like set them off. You know what I mean? But we're talking about the 70s, a white family in a farm area or whatever that has little interactions with people in the city. And I don't know if they held some of these biases prior to this happening.
I bet they did to a degree. I feel like if you had a strong sense of like anti-racism, and then that happened, then you probably wouldn't allow that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, so there probably did have some biases before that, but
I mean, it's the thing is that most of that family, the ones that still kind of hold on to it are much older, and a lot of them are no longer with us. So
yeah,
I don't know how much longer that's going to continue. We'll see.
There's that generation of like people that just like are essentially a lost cause.
Yeah,
and, you kind of just you're kind of waiting out the clock on them and hoping they don't say anything too fucking egregious at Thanksgiving dinner this year. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just the situation. Do we want to talk about this Beau DeMayo stuff? And
yeah, there's nothing problematic there. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I did see what you posted in private chat, and I think there's a way to talk about that isn't too bad, and I'll try and do that.
Yeah, I'll leave that to you. I definitely don't think I'm the one to do that. So
so low watermark is optimistic. No, I don't believe in lost causes. So I mean, you might be right.
Definitely not the lost cause myth, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always something that can be done or said, but I don't think I've ever. Well, I used to say I didn't change anybody's mind, but I feel like some people maybe have given me the benefit of the doubt. So maybe I'm changing to low watermark. Maybe I am.
Look, I guess when I say lost cause, I'm talking about people that, like, I'm talking about my my grandmother who's was so old before she died, obviously, was so old that like trying to change her mind on these types of issues would just create more stress than was good for her physical form. You know what I mean? Like and it would chip away time that I had left with my grandmother. When we could be talking about any of the things that she loved to talk about, and we had a good time talking about. But like trying to, if I stopped every time she said something problematic and was like, "Actually, Granny, that's what I mean, is that it becomes no longer pragmatic to try and change her mind."
Yeah, all right, so let's talk a little bit about this. We're not going to watch the video. If you guys want to watch it, it is still available. They didn't private or anything like that. But this is Diabolical Souls. I actually am going to be keeping up with this channel now after this, because it looked like It's a live streaming channel, so we'll see what else happens.
Okay, I was looking to see if I recognize anybody. I recognize the Angry Badger.
Right.
He actually has a channel where he does some pretty cringe shit.
Well, yeah. I figure we'll look at this. Let me make that larger so you can see all the names on it. So Angry Badger is one I recognize. Ronan Joe's another one, and Gooch also I recognize. And these guys are kind of tight with the Fellowship, meaning like the
Gooch.
F&T
He
guys.
was on fucking Hypnotic's cast. I remember that.
Yeah. Yep. They're tight with Hypnotic, that whole group, Yellow Flash, all of them. They somehow managed to score an actual interview / stream with Beau DeMayo.
Well, what comes to mind before seeing anything that's said, what comes to mind is that Critical Drinker has managed to get a couple people. Who was it? They got who was it? Az got the director of that Robin Hood thing not long ago, right? I mean, I think there is a way that they somehow, I guess they just bank on the person not knowing much about them, maybe. And they just kind of grift their way into an interview in some cases. I don't know about this.
And I feel like for fair purposes, I just kind of jumped to a time here. Let's just give it a couple minutes here and see kind of what the conversation is. I watched a big portion of this last night, and it didn't seem too egregious in this part of it, but the chat was a different subject, and I'm not even going to show some of the stuff I was seeing in chat. But let's listen to a little bit of this here.
No, I'm just going to quickly I want to do a shout out to Joker for all the memberships, dude. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. And then Josh has a question for you, Beau. Why do you think so many creators struggle to adapt comic properties respectively, while also making it feel fresh and original?
This is actually a good. I jumped to a really good spot. I'm curious to what his answer to this is, because this is like almost a little dog whistly. Why do you think so many creators struggle to adapt comic book properties respectfully? That feels a little dog whistly, but I don't know if Beau is going to give him the answer that he wants. So let's see what he says here.
Make it look easy. Thank you for making a quality show.
Well, thank you. My pleasure. I didn't know I made it look easy. I was hoping I was doing like the Lucius Fox, Morgan Freeman thing in Batman Begins, where he overly explains how difficult it is just to make the point to Bruce Wayne, because it's not easy at all. And I think that's the thing, guys, is like, as much as we sit, and I sat where you guys, I was on superherohype.com when I was growing up, on forums arguing with people about Wizard Magazine, for those people who remember Wizard Magazine.
Oh yeah.
I think there is a belief that people take on, and creators take on comic books with the intention of like making something shitty. There's not a person I've met in this industry that does not give their whole damnedest to try to make the best thing they think it should be.
Wow, that answer is probably red flags to all these guys in their heads, because isn't the argument like that creators are purposely making shitty content?
Yeah, I mean, some of them depends on who we're talking about, but like, yeah.
I mean, that's the general narrative, is that a lot of these people that are making this are out to kind of ruin it on purpose. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't agree with this, Autumn, just because like woke isn't really a thing. That I don't subscribe to that term as being valid. Just because there's no practical use to it, because so many people mean different shit.
I also want to point out how, if you look at their faces, they're excited to be talking to Beau, but had this gone another direction, they would not be like this. You know what I mean? Like if the show had an Angry Badger specifically, we're going to look at his page in a moment. If the show had been like super gay, like overtly gay, this would be a completely different conversation happening. He wouldn't even be on the stream with them, to be honest. Let's see.
The stumbling block I think we hit is realizing when something maybe isn't for you.
I don't think anyone realizes that, and that's what the problem is. That's the nicest way that you could say it. People are taking projects they probably shouldn't take because they do not have the love and respect that you clearly do.
Okay, what do
Oh
you think
my
about
gosh.
that, Dane? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, what I think about that just kind of is now colored by something pretty significant that I saw looking at Angry Badger's channel.
Okay, do you have anything specific on there, or
from the channel?
Yeah.
Well, so I looked and I saw that he's live right now. And it's X-Men's 97's Beau DeMayo Speaks. The Acolyte Lives Up to Expectations. Badgercast episode 8. And then, okay, so that actually seems kind of like it might be potentially normal, harmless kind of shit. Join in the description. Join the Angry Badger with Nerd Wars and Mr. Tech Rat. Nerd Wars, all caps.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Isn't that the InfoWars thingy or whatever that they?
Yes, and he is a member. His channel is the first listed here as a channel member on there. And then I don't know, man. This is it's kind of a weird one to suss out. I mean, obviously not somebody to be trusted, but
we'll drop that out because I think I kind of got like I watched the whole thing so I can give a full thought on it.
Please do, because I have to assume that this is not that Beau DeMayo did not fully understand this stream and the people involved with it before he agreed to it, right?
Yeah, so this is just kind of a quick glance at Angry Badger, his channel and his thumbnails. Halo goes full gay pride. Sweet Baby Inc. killed this game. Too much of a gay thing.
Who said yes to this? And then you got the trans gun over there.
Right. But you're sitting next to an openly gay man on a stream, oiling him up because you're so excited to talk about this guy that took part in X-Men 97, while you're also making anti-gay videos.
Wow.
I mean, I don't fully understand why someone would do that unless they're lying about this or they were lying to Beau DeMayo. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. By the way, you've literally got right here Erwin on stream with him.
Yeah.
But I just realized he's got fewer subscribers than me, so I shouldn't be showing him too much.
Oh yeah. I wanted to point out, like, that is kind of the community that he was sort of being present with. And if he were not someone creating a piece of work that they had all astroturfed, I wouldn't think too much of it. But a lot of these channels went out of their way to astroturf X-Men 97. And the constant anti-gay stuff is a little weird.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Yellow Flash Orion. So Bob of the Old Way says, interviews like this don't happen passively. Someone hustled nonstop until they landed Beau. Probably lied to them to get him on. He almost certainly did not seek them out. So,
well, maybe that's tells us that we should do the same.
Well, here's the thing, anti-idiotic. We could interview him. Absolutely. But it would make more sense under the context of the show and the conversation that was happening about X-Men 97 for channels like us to interview him versus channels that astroturfed it, spent months trying to make the show fail, and then oopsies, it's a good show. Let's get the showrunner on.
So just looking at the chat of this stream that's live right now, I see stuff like, talking about Acolyte, is the entire cast just different colored lesbians? That's cool, man.
I don't know,
It's
man.
Yeah, a lot of problematic stuff.
It's become really exhausting because it's now devolved, and low watermark, we've talked about this as well. There used to be a point in this debate, I want to call it that, this culture war, I guess, where the people in those spaces were arguing about things like writing, cinematography, pacing, editing. That's gone now. That's gone. Now it is woman lead, bad. Gay person in it, bad. Trans people in it, bad. Person of color in it, DEI. That's literally the conversations they're making now. They're no longer pretending that it was ever about quality, because now they can't make that argument. There's been too many movies like Barbie that have done well against all odds. And so now they don't have any other argument to make about it. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I said last year that there was going to come a point where it was no longer sustainable for them to pretend. They were going to have to just come out and start saying racist stuff, saying homophobic stuff. And it looks like we're right on that cusp of that. And it's Pride Month. So
I think we can take I think we should actually take a little bit of credit for that too. We have played a part in pushing them to this point where they kind of just have to like acknowledge it to some degree, almost as a way to like dismiss it or to make their audiences okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise they would be ignoring something that's a growing sentiment, not just, you know, from us, but from others. Plenty of others are now speaking out about this shit.
Scott, exactly it. They don't need to dog whistle anymore because they've conditioned their community. They have indoctrinated their community. They have groomed their community. So they no longer have to do that anymore. So
wow. Fucking A, man. I just want to show, in case anybody is not familiar with Nerd Wars, there's a video on my channel about that. Pillar of Garbage did a video recently based on the video. It's on my channel. It's just seems to be an extension of InfoWars, as in Alex Jones. And then their content is like this: the front lines of the nerd culture war, right? So you've got the Acolyte is the gayest Star Wars. Even the shills hate it, which doesn't make any sense, man.
We could talk about that for a second too. I do want to give my thoughts on it. I did a review on my other channel, but
The
I'd love to
shills
sort of
hate
talk
it.
about that.
How does that even make any goddamn sense? Go full woke. Like literally everything is from this perspective. And like if you watch some of their quote unquote documentaries that they have on the channel, which is really just it's a compilation of videos from all the different CHUDs kind of thing.
Mhm.
Oh, he hasn't done one in a while. Okay.
Someone said they sent me an email. I did not receive an email from you, or it's not showing up in my inbox.
He's wanting you to look at some channel that's, you know, I already told him that you're probably not going to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure that based on the standards I know you have, you're not going to want to cover it. So
I have low standards, Dane.
No, I'm talking about
my
like,
standards are very low.
It's a channel that like literally has like less than 1,000 something subscribers.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't want to like. There's so you're talking about like the standards of like echoing like and promoting.
Yes.
Yeah. That's different. I thought you were talking about ethical standards. My ethical standards are very low, so I don't.
Well, I mean, I think that is an ethical standard, right? Like, you don't want to platform because that could benefit them, and that's. But so here's where I'm talking about. They got the documentaries here, and these are literally just a bunch of clips from all these CHUDs edited together into like a 3.5 hour almost thing. They called it a documentary. New Woke
Screw
Order.
faces Nerdrotic from Wish.
And they, he talks about like, talks about this shit in the context of being a communist China fucking, agenda and all this stuff. It's like
Low Watermark swinging in with 20 gifted memberships.
Damn.
Thank you so much, Low Watermark. Everyone in the chat, shout out to Low Watermark. This means if you're on my channel watching this, this means you will get early access to all the videos. You'll get badges, you'll get emotes, you'll get membership perks for live streams. So thank you so much, Low Watermark, for the support. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
So, I mean, I'm guessing that really this channel it can mostly, at least these videos, the longer ones, they exist for people that don't have the time to watch Nerdrotic every day, but maybe they're people that might watch a documentary nowadays.
So have you seen, there's a lot of, and I want to, like, I guess we'll talk about these things and then we'll do some chat stuff or whatever,
Sure.
But have you seen, and I'm not talking about Katie did clips because she actually live streams and does other stuff. Have you seen these channels where they're just clip channels?
Yeah.
Like that's all they do is clip. There's no live streams. There's no regular content.
Yep.
Because although Katie does clip, she streams quite often with her own stuff. So is that a new thing? Because I don't think YouTube monetizes those channels, right? They don't make money off of repurposing other people's
I mean, I think that just like any channel, they can make money if they get to they've reached the threshold, but then it depends on whether or not the creators are, because you get notifications when somebody uses a bunch of your video or whatever, and they'll, you get to approve it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, And then you can choose how you want to have, what relationship you want to have with that channel, whether you know them or not. So like, if it's somebody that's just using your clips and they're doing it for good reasons, they're like kind of just repurposing them for whatever. And it's like, I'm definitely just gonna let them use it without any strings attached.
Wow. So clip channels do make money if they don't get strikes. Wow. It's crazy. Like, I don't mind people that are doing clips and also doing their own content, but if you're just uploading clips, that's...
Well, I mean, so there was actually a point, honestly, whenever I was not doing well financially. Anti-idiotic, you need to stop asking. You asked it 4 fucking times in my chat the other day. You've asked it 2 or 3 times today, and he already answered you, dude.
Yeah, I didn't get an email. So if you follow me on social media, just send me link me at me with a video that you want me to look at or something. Right. If it's not, the email's not coming through. You can do it on Instagram. You can do it on Twitter. It's fine.
Bosch was telling people that like he doesn't care if you want to make a channel and turn it into like a Bosch clip channel, because he's letting his socialism speak for him. He's like, yeah, if you want to do the clips or whatever, that's fine. I don't want any money.
Yeah.
And I thought about doing it, but I didn't do it.
So Low Watermark says, thank you for introducing me to Dane. I will watch more of Dane. Oh, there you go.
The second one's correct, but the first one was kind of cool.
It's your alias. It's Dane from Earth 2. But thank you again, Low Watermark, coming in and supporting the channel. I do appreciate it. There's a really great stream that I did with him recently, and we need to get him over here. I would love to get Low Watermark on a stream with us. Maybe we'll do something before we go back to doing. Actually, when is the Showcast returning?
I think next week Turf will be back. I don't know if for sure. I don't remember if Bob will be back, but I think at least Turf. Yes, Turf will be back. So
we can maybe do a Friday stream with Low Watermark. Maybe that would be kind of fun. So
yeah,
we'll talk in DMs and I'll find out. So the Acolyte, I've seen no spoilers because Dane hasn't seen it. I'm not going to spoil it. I've seen the first 2. Well, you've kind of been spoiled already because of these other channels, but I saw the first 2 episodes and I was absolutely blown away by how different and fresh the show is compared to everything else we've had in the Star Wars universe. And let me tell you from my perspective why I feel that way. Number one, there's not a lot of lore coming into those first 2 episodes. It's very much like hits the ground running. You meet the characters, you jump into the story. And from the standpoint of not being a diehard Star Wars fan, I've never pretended to be a diehard Star Wars fan. I've never pretended to know everything about Star Wars. I'm somebody that just casually engages with Star Wars. I would say I am probably the biggest demographic of Star Wars fans, is like this middle area of people that love Star Wars, but aren't super fans of Star Wars. So watching it, I love the idea of this long form mystery that's going to go throughout the season, but I also enjoy the smaller mysteries that get answered in each episode. So as you're watching the show as a viewer, you get rewarded for investing in the show with little things revealed that are set up and then answered in the same episode you're watching. But then that leads into the larger mystery of the season in a way that you're like, okay, so you can piece together all of these puzzle pieces and it starts to get really interesting. Like sort of like a murder mystery type thing in Star Wars, but with more action than Andor. I loved Andor, but this is different from that. The characters are all unique characters. They're all different. The idea of them being gay or trans or non-binary, not that I would have a problem with it, obviously, but it's not happening in those episodes. Now, I know there's some spoilers out there for episode 3. Dane was telling me about it, but in episodes 1 and 2, there's nothing like that at all. The fight scenes are really good. I think the show is shot beautifully. All the characters seem very interesting. There's no sort of, I guess they would call it girl boss stuff. There's none of that in this. It's just a breath of fresh air because there's no downtime either. There's no scenes where you're like, oh, I have time to check my phone and scroll for like 3 minutes. Everything sort of jumps from one thing to the next in a very smooth way. There's no clunkiness in the pacing. I really, really enjoyed it. And I like the idea of not knowing these characters. Like a lot of the other shows, we know the characters, Ahsoka, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan. You know, it reminds me a lot of like those early Mandalorian seasons where you don't really know anybody. You're kind of meeting everybody for the first time. So I enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. Even if there is some sort of diverse stuff introduced later on, I don't think it really matters if it's well done. And that's the way everybody should sort of view it. Like, look at it the way you want to look at it, and don't let other people tell you that something is bad because they don't like it. Because that's not, consuming media that way is not good for you.
True.
So
yeah, I'm excited to watch it. Like it's you know, that has been a bit of a I guess I don't know that's inherently a bad thing, but like it is noticeable whenever every single project is like oh yeah, you remember this character? Here's some more about that character.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like think I've been wanting something a little bit fresher, and I've got an interesting position on Star Wars because I'm someone who was all that as far as like I know a lot of things about Star Wars. I know a lot of I've seen the movies a shitload of times. I loved it. You know, it's like for most of my life, I would consider Star Wars up there with Marvel and Star Trek as being like my three things, you know. And then Rise of Skywalker happened, and man, I just became so fucking disillusioned by that shit that it took, like, even whenever I was enjoying some of Mandalorian or whatever, I didn't think I'd ever capture that feeling again of like I love this shit, you know. And then Andor got that from me a bit. And so yeah, and this sounds like exactly the kind of thing, much like Andor, even though we'd seen him before. It was still very much a show of like this is a perspective on this content that we've not seen. And I want that. That's what I think is going to keep me interested.
Yeah, so Bob, like the first episode, we saw a little bit of it in I think when they were teasing it with Carrie Ann Moss and Amandla fighting. That scene is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And there's some other fight scenes that happen that are also just beautifully shot. I truly believe that these people going, oh, it's the worst thing Star Wars has ever done. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Fair enough if this isn't your cup of tea, but it's not the worst thing that Star Wars has ever done.
So, I mean, this is honestly, you know, not to be insulting or anything, but this is honestly the most pedestrian take on the sequels I think there is. It's like, yeah, maybe, but also the original trilogy wasn't planned out really, and that turned out how it turned out. So like that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Also, the main thing that I think shouldn't have happened is that there shouldn't have been a bunch of fucking far right chuds that managed to convince Disney, Lucasfilm, that they were the fandom and that they needed to fucking freak out about the bold and awesome choices they made in The Last Jedi and just like, you know, double back and you know, try and get rid of any kind of progress that they thought they were going to make. That's what shouldn't have happened. That's just me.
I don't have a strong opinion about any of them. Again, I would like to say I probably represent the average like moviegoer when it comes to Star Wars stuff. There's stuff I loved and hated about the movies, but I didn't have like a visceral reaction to any of them, except for the drinking of the milk. That grossed me out.
It's awesome. Love it. I just love that it is disgusting, right? Like it's gross, but it's also just like this guy's been living out on his own for a long time. He just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, he's just drinking milk straight out of the cow.
The Last Jedi is, in my opinion, the best Star Wars movie. Hot take. I know it's crazy, but I got some chats here started.
Yeah, come on, let's do it. We are through all the topics. Let's just see what the chat's thinking.
So back here, Lucifer said this about, you know, you're talking about the channels that, you know, are more centrist, you know, at least superficially, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Mahler still thinks he's doing.
So Mahler still thinks he's a centrist, even though he pretty much echoes all the same talking points as
I mean, but also just like
right leading channels.
Hey, what's Mahler doing here?
I had to. I love channels like Nerd Wars because it's such a transparent attempt at cashing in on the grift. Like someone stealing Herbalife in 2024. And I agree with you. However, if you watch the video on my channel about this, it's more than that. it's more than just cashing in on the grift. There's some pretty insidious shit happening there. I've heard people say pay their bills off of hospitality revash. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Which, kind of cool of them to do that. It's like it benefits them because people are seeing their content and they just let whoever's doing it keep.
And they've actually,
revenue.
the way you said, Dane, is they actually approve of it, so they don't care apparently. So
yeah. I've been wanting prehistory Star Wars for a very long time. Can't wait to watch it later. Same.
Yeah, this is set 100 years before like the events of the first movie. So,
like, I love fucking Knights of the Old Republic, especially 2, the games from back in the day. It's just like some of the best gaming experience I've ever had was playing KOTOR 2.
I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of stuff in it that people who know that era are probably going to be complaining about after it comes out. Like I think the Jedi whip thing that was already introduced was one of the things they were upset about, primarily because they said it. Well, I think a lot of them were saying that it wasn't cool. It wasn't something they wanted to see. It wasn't cool. And then they were saying, oh, it's canon, but then they're like, it still wasn't cool when it was canon. So what are we arguing then? It's no longer objective at that point.
Yeah, you're just talking about like you don't like that it's a whip basically, and
right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember really any of the details about what the canonically was happening, other than just the High Republic kind of indicates that some of it, but like, yeah, I don't know the details enough that I'm going to recognize much, or unless you start mentioning like, I don't know, shit, I can't even remember the name now. I know there was some Sith guys that I knew the name of from that period, I think, but
yeah,
made a lot of money off their comic books and novels and children's books. Yeah, I actually do have I'd gotten through Kindle for free reading. A few of the different trades for from the High Republic comics, and read one so far, and it was pretty good. Nothing amazing or mind-blowing, but it was about 2 characters, 2 Jedi who I'd never heard of before, as a male and female Jedi who they kind of bonded up with each other as like, just siblings early on when they were kids, and like they do everything together, and they kind of are just like end up in this situation on a planet where they're having to decide who the aggressor really is, what's really going on here, and who they should throw their support behind, and it's a good little story.
So I am curious. So after you watch, are you planning on talking about it like on a stream or something? Like when you?
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Probably Friday. Talk about it.
Yeah. Coming from somebody who's much more into Star Wars than myself, I'd love to hear your opinion on it, because you might have a completely different take. But I think it's really fun. It's an exciting story. There's a lot of interesting characters in it. The guy who played in Squid Games, I don't remember the actor's name.
I haven't seen Squid Games.
Well, apparently he learned English just to play the character in this series.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's see. It's Lee Jung Jae, who played in, I believe, Squid Games is the show he was known for. Actually learned English specifically to play this role.
So what is this about? Beau delivered on the things those fans complain about, and was willing to have the conversation that y'all don't want to have. Are you talking about us not wanting to have a conversation? If you'd like to come on, I don't know about DJ, but like speaking for myself, I'll have a conversation with you pretty much.
Yeah,
whenever.
I don't care. I go on everybody's streams. I don't have a problem.
We have
with that.
conversations, man. It's weird.
I've been on stream with EVS and stuff. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? I'm on streams with people who don't agree with me all the time.
How can they misinform when it's live from the creator's mouth? What are you talking about, man? Like, you're just saying shit here. You're not being specific enough to even be making a statement. Can you please be specific enough that you're making a statement?
So we showed video or thumbnails and titles from one of the people on the stream that's like posting a bunch of anti-gay content. The question was, why is Beau going onto a stream with somebody that's posting that stuff? If he knew that was the case, considering that he has been very like obviously community forward,
right.
Show launched. It's a fair question. And we didn't even say that him doing there was anything wrong with him doing it.
No,
I don't see where the argument's coming from. We're questioning the intention and why they would want to have him on the stream. And as far as
reactionary kind of move to show up and start asking questions like that aren't even really based in anything that we've said.
Yeah, but the other thing is that he didn't do stuff they asked for. Everything that got promoted from that show, they were complaining about. What are you even talking about? He made more, at least to some degree, pansexual and non-binary, which is one of the things. Rogue's ass was apparently not made plumper. Like, I don't know what you mean.
Okay, jump to that, sir. We're not, man. We're not doing that. So
we're literally showing your comments on screen.
Stop acting like a fucking dishonest little bitch and answer.
What is happening here?
Are you okay? I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know what DJ's policy is, but on at least for me, this is the kind of thing that if we continue to try to give you an opportunity to express yourself and you refuse to do so, and then even make false claims like this, that's when I will fucking ban you from my.
Well,
channel.
he's in your chat. He's not in mine, or they are in chat. I don't know if it's him or not, but that's in your stream. So
of course it is.
But you delete comments, Dane.
Yeah, I delete them all the time. I mean, look, if you're using slurs or something, then your comment's not showing up, and that might be the problem.
Well, I have a lot of people that say the same thing to me, and then I go and I look into the auto moderated stuff from YouTube, and usually their comments like hidden in there for some reason. Like the reason why comments don't show up, I know this is something that's such a nebulous answer that nobody will ever accept this. If you are leaving trollish comments on other videos, YouTube will eventually just stop showing your comments. That's just
also,
the way it is.
And I do need to keep in mind that I have granted the powers to my mods that if they see something that they believe is ban worthy, that they have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And I trust them with that because I've got mods who represent the communities that are often the ones being talked about in these conversations, and if they feel that there's something being said that's against their well-being or right to exist or whatever the hell, then yeah, they have the power to get rid of that shit. So I'm saying, Beau, talk to them, yet you all tell people that they're bigots and hate members of it.
Can I answer this quickly? I don't
Please.
think I don't think we ever called them anything like that. I never said any of those people were bigots. I pulled up videos where someone is posting anti-gay content literally on the screen. And I said, why would a gay person go on stream with these guys if this is the kind of content they're making? You don't like the fact that it doesn't make any sense at all, because none of those people in any of those circles would come on any of the shows that I'm on. They would not do that because there's a reason why. I don't have to call them names. Their content speaks for itself.
So the whole thing of like, is Beau DeMayo a chud came from the fact that Bob Chaos had said that, and maybe you said something too.
Do you want me to talk about this? Because I know you were concerned about like bringing this up. I can talk about it if you
well,
want.
just the fact that like there was apparently some comments elsewhere, and this is aside from the thing that I told you that like just in the context of talking to chuds online, that he was being a little bit friendly with them or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, I actually understand why he might do that for strategic purposes, and I have no problem with that. You know what I mean? So if that's what it is, that's fine. But like, I don't know.
And it's twofold also. It's twofold also. That why would they bring him on? Like, that's like when Comic Book Girl 19 went on FNT and she literally talked shit about the people in the chat on the stream. Why is that person there?
Yeah.
That's the question we're asking. There's no accusations. It's a question. There's a question mark in the title of the video.
Dude, I don't know that you're really equipped to engage in the conversation the way that you are.
What are you talking about in Fergetta? What are you talking about? Why does one person dictate a group's behavior? What are you talking about?
Generally, if we're talking about people on here, other than earlier, we talked about those guys and we didn't really say much about them because we don't have a lot of experience with them. But typically talking about Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers, these are guys that we've paid attention to them long enough to see patterns of behavior and content and rhetoric to know, we know what they're about. We're pretty comfortable saying what we think about them. And that has nothing to do with what one of the other ones says or does or whatever. But like, you know, the fact that they're all partnered up definitely is context to consider.
Didn't y'all speak on that earlier with racism?
I don't know, man. I don't fucking know what he's talking about.
What is the through line? I don't. So do you condone bigotry or not?
Are you cool with bigotry?
Yeah, I mean that's really the question. Like clearly the videos that are being made by at least one, maybe two people on that stream veer into territory with language that is anti-queer, anti-diversity. Do you agree with that or not? Because clearly we do not like that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean that I can dictate what that person is doing. I just talked about censorship earlier and how people in these circles now are saying they want to censor woke stuff. Are you going to address that? Are you going to address Grum saying that woke needs to be censored? How do you feel about that? Do you think that woke stuff should be censored? I'm very curious because I'm not calling for censorship of their podcast. I'm not calling for censorship of their channel.
Hey, we're getting rid of him. It's going to be nice again. Don't write me off.
I just think it's a little weird. Like all these accusations make no sense whatsoever. I could have gone off on a tangent. Trust me, go to my channel. Go to my channel. If you want to hear me go off and call people out, go watch my videos. You can leave all the comments you want there.
So I went to his channel because oftentimes when I get somebody being shithead in my comments or whatever, and they're just like trying to do both sidesism type stuff, I go to the channel and a lot of times they will show their subscriptions. And unfortunately, this is not one of those times. But you know, I mean, I've literally had people that, guys, if you've never done YouTube like what we do, you might not realize how hard these motherfuckers try sometimes, right? So I've had people in my comment section be like, "Oh, I don't know who this critical drinker is, but I don't know. He kind of sounds like he makes a good point here."
Oh yeah, I get those.
And then I go and look at his channel. It's like critical drinker is the first fucking subscription that he's got. He's like, you know, and he's commenting all over drinker videos and stuff. And it's like, oh my god,
sketchy. It's 100%. It's somebody's secondary channel, or a secondary account. So Panzer Dan says this here. Matter of fact, I have to get out of here in like 10 minutes, so we're going to do this. You can be anti-queer or pro whatever and be a part. I guess you mean a part.
What are you talking about, man?
Be a part of fandom.
I think
it's the IP that comes thread.
I think this is the same guy.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Because I mean, is he in your chat?
Yeah, this is in my chat. Yeah.
Okay, because I banned this motherfucker from my chat before. That's why he was in my chat under that other name, and now he's in your chat under his original name because he's banned. You motherfucker, you piece of shit. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah. No. It's like it's a level of standards is really what I was getting at. Like if these channels have a hard line against diversity and woke or whatever, and that's their statement as a channel, they wouldn't invite on someone who has been show running probably the most diverse cartoon we've had in a long time. It's been extremely popular because they like the X-Men. That's never stopped them before. All of these people like Star Wars, but they're not inviting Kathleen Kennedy on their channel. They're not inviting Leslie Headland on their channel.
Panzer Dan /Inforgetter, whatever. Do you know what fandom is? Do you know what a fandom means? Literally, the definition of fandom is community. It's not I like this IP. It is a community. It can be around anything. It doesn't have to be an intellectual property. It can be a fandom around a type of dog, or fucking like some kind of food cooking. I'm a fan of like making fucking brownies with my friends on Saturdays. It's a community, and it's the engagement that happens within that community, and that's the approach that like you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look,
you want people to see fandom as just the thing I like, because that allows you to fucking feed you thought terminating cliches and shit that threatens this connection to the thing you like, when really there is no threat to the thing you like.
Yeah.
The threat, it feels like a threat because you're insecure that other people yeah.
I was saying, why would someone who is anti-queer want to be part of a gay fandom? Yeah.
True.
Oh, that was fun.
Anyway.
So
hey,
I
last end, right?
Yeah, that's a good ending. By the way, if anybody on here ever questions whether or not I will talk to somebody who has a completely different point of view, Low Watermark and I disagree on a lot of shit, and I
Yeah.
have streamed with him on my channel multiple times.
And I'm going to be talking with him soon too.
Yeah, I have been on Katie Did's channel. I've been on Frog Tony's channel. I've streamed with EVS in the chats before. I've been on Razor Dave BTM Reviews channel. None of those channels have people that all agree with each other. So I'm not oblivious to the idea of people having different points of view. But there is a way you approach that. If somebody is making video after video after video talking shit about whatever group it is, that is completely different from saying I have a different opinion than you. You know what I'm saying? That's it's a very different stance. And that's kind of where I come at it. Like Low Watermark and I could agree on something, but Low Watermark also doesn't run a propaganda channel on YouTube. So, you know, that's just the way it is.
I did want to kind of make a bit of a half an announcement because I'm not quite certain yet what I'm going to do exactly, but so I'm going to start another YouTube channel soonish, just as soon as I get caught up on what I'm behind on. It's going to be a music focused thing, where I'm going
to
listen to music, like break down lyrics and shit like that. Just talking about, you know, because honestly, comic books, I love them. Movies, I love them. They're like some of the most important shit in my life, but not more so than music has been.
Right.
And so I kind of feel like I'm leaving out a part of myself by not talking about that. And I've found a lot of reason to talk about it more lately. And so, yeah, just want to talk about some music and I'll start a new channel for that. And yeah. So anyway, point being that Friday, I think I'm going to try that out on the regular Friday stream and just see, you know, kind of how that goes.
Okay. That sounds cool. Defunct says we can respectfully disagree with a different opinion. Yeah, there's certain things that I'm willing to just be like, okay, cool. Like we just feel differently about it.
LWM
like with yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the way it is. I've been in heated streams before, you know what I mean, where we have had completely different opinions where I just will not concede to it at all. You know what I mean? But yeah, it is what it is. Danimal says, I will say I've really enjoyed that Low Watermark stream. I can't wait to get him on this stream with everybody. Chat.
I mean, look, I was actually thinking of talking about in the first. I'll probably do this Friday. Talking about the Rippaverse song. I'll save my hot take, but I want to talk about the Rippaverse song, and it might surprise you. I'll say that it might surprise you.
So this is the last thing I think we can answer quickly before we wrap things up because I got to get out of here. Either of you watched Godzilla -1 since it dropped on Netflix? I have not, but I've heard that the English dub is kind of not
good.
Great. Yeah, so I'll probably watch it with subs. Hopefully, it has a sub option. I feel like it should. But I did see there was a hot take from, gosh, who was it? Let me see if I can find it quickly. I think it was from Simon Pegg. I'm going to paraphrase it here, but he said that Godzilla -1 was amazing and that all of the other Godzilla stuff is cultural appropriation or something like that. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's kind of that take's been met with a lot of different types of responses, but most people are like, that's not it. That's not the take. But yeah.
Well, I mean, especially because, like, you know, if you love the shit, like I know for a fact because there's an author that I've read several of his books. He's a Zen Buddhist monk by the name of Brad Warner from Ohio, who he started out in a punk band in Ohio, but eventually he moved to Japan and started working on like Ultraman. You know, and like it's just generally he said he was welcomed into that whole you know, genre of making stuff, and it's like, you know, I don't know. I feel like maybe there's a little bit more focus sometimes on stuff like that in woke culture than maybe there needs to be, but yeah, you know, who am I to say?
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Anything else?
No, I got this subscribe bumper to play and then get out of here.
All right, let's do that.
All right, guys. I think I'm not sure if Bob Chaos is going to be streaming tomorrow. I forget. I wish I would have checked, but you know, look out for it. Subscribe to all the folks in the description of these videos, these streams. Check out our most recent videos. Hop around, show some love with the likes and the views and the comments and the shares and all that stuff. That is how we fight this shit. Okay. And yeah, thanks DJ for streaming with me, even though it's just a couple of us and the other guys are off doing dumb shit.
Yeah, it's fine. I had a good time.
Happy Pride, by the way. Happy Pride, everybody.
Yeah,
fucking. I think we're gonna be talking about some Pride stuff. Once the showcast gets going again. And yeah, we did Star Trek last year. We should probably think of something we could do this year. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll do something fun. So, cool. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks Slow Watermark for all the gifted subs, and I'll see you guys soon. Go watch our videos. Add a new video today.
No, you're still on the right channel. This is Eric Debunks. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, as well as to Actual Fandom, and Organized Chaos, and Turf Nation.